Welcome to Glow State. I'm your host, Courtney Page. As a former executive recruiter, career coach, actor, and yoga teacher, I'm demystifying how people have designed the creative career and life that was meant for them, and how you can too. Now, for this week's episode, let's get glowing. All right. Hello and welcome to Glow State. Our Glow guest today is counterterrorism professional turned career coach, podcaster, author, and public speaker, Ashley Stahl. Ashley landed an impressive position at the Pentagon, of all places, at the ripe old age of 23, in the middle of a recession. And that was a result of mastering the dreaded job hunt, which she then forayed into her current career coaching business, which is where I met her. And she helps her clients gain career clarity, master the job search, and launch their own businesses. She has had 2 highly successful TED Talks. Her podcast, U-Turn, if you haven't listened to it, you have to go listen to it, is in the top 100 in the mental health category in the US and number 53, I think, in the arts category. So she's pretty good at it. Her book is also entitled U-Turn, and it is an Amazon bestseller. She is also just an awesome human, and she's my coach.
Aww.
And she's just doing me a huge favor by being on my podcast.
No,
so welcome.
I'm here. Thank you for having me. No favors. This is such a pleasure. You're such a good energy to be around. I'm sure that people listening are going to feel a boost just from your vibe.
Hope.
Yeah.
I hope so. Just from saying all those things that you do, I know that you're very busy, so it's obviously like super appreciated that you're here. Okay, so one question that I really love to ask people is, how would you answer somebody if you were at a dinner party and somebody asks you, what do you do? What would you say?
You know, it's so funny. I become really introverted when people ask me what I do, and it's not because I'm not proud of it or whatever, but when I started creating real success, it almost made me feel separate from people. Like, this is Ashley and this is all the stuff she's up to. And if it was a group of people that were like in the workplace and had their day, like I would always feel like kind of a weirdo, like a pariah in a way. But if I'm playing a little smaller, I'll say that I'm a writer. And if I'm in like a business group of people, I'll say that I'm an author and a speaker and I have a show.
Okay, so you tailor it to who you're talking to.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, that's what a good teacher does. It's all about like, who are you talking to? And that tailors how you show up.
Yeah. So you just hit on something that I wanted to ask you about, because I think I saw it somewhere on, I don't know if it was your website or somewhere else, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you identify as an introvert, but you're everywhere.
I know.
Like you have your podcast, you're teaching a workshop on how to launch a podcast.
Yeah.
You give these TED Talks. I've seen, if you go to Ashley's website, she's been all over like the news and local TV shows and whatnot as a career expert. You're a keynote speaker. And I also just want to hit on, you just started a public speaking coaching component of your coaching biz.
Yeah.
And I mean, public speaking is probably, I think it's like up there with death as like a fear for people. So can you tell me a little bit, like, how do you manage your introversion with being so exposed?
Yeah. You know, it's like beneath everything you listed is a business strategy. And I look like I'm everywhere, but I have a lot of free time. Like I don't work, most of the time I don't work more than 3 hours a day. Now
That's
maybe
awesome.
a bit more because I started coaching people on writing and booking their TED Talks. Last year, we wrote 40 of them and booked 39 of those people on stage. And so I do a lot of things, but I have a really good team supporting me. And I think I always used to be triggered by people who would say that when I was new to business, like, I have a really good team, because what I would see is like dollar signs, like, oh, well, this is someone I can't relate to because they're paying a bunch of people to make their life easier. But the word team can be many things. We have resources like Fiverr and Upwork where, you can get talent all over the world that is charging a price that really supports them and is totally affordable for you based on the market that you're in. I lived in Bali for a while. My rent was $250 a month, and I was easily able to invest, $500 a month into an assistant that was full-time in Bali with me. or whatever it was. So I think just remembering like whatever traditional stories we have about getting support, that there's many different ways to get support. And for me, I've really benefited from that. And also just in my packages and prices, like writing a TED Talk, like the pricing that I have, it's reflection of all the support that I have in that offer. It's not like I'm charging a price and, I'm writing the talk, I'm booking the talk, I'm doing all of it. I have a booker, I have a co-writer, pay them for their time as much as I burn out on the writing myself. I love writing. But if I feel like, I've had it with this TED Talk, I'm 60% in and I've got my inspiration out, I need help, I'm not afraid to pay somebody to help. So I think that there's a lot of creativity out there for people who maybe are thinking in more traditional ways to honor themselves. And as a public speaker, if you think about things like my TED Talk or something like that, most of it was me practicing alone in my house before I got on the stage. The part where I'm in front of people is 18 minutes, and my body definitely feels the fear of death in that 18 minutes of eyeballs staring at me. My first talk of my life was 4,000 people looking at me. And
oh my God.
Yeah. But you know what? Doubt doesn't mean don't. My first talk of my life was actually a TED
I
Talk.
love that. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. Your first talk was a TED Talk?
Yeah, because they were interested in my experience from the Pentagon. And I totally pulled a doozy on the TED channel and ended up talking about my career coaching business. So, and I just started it. I had some clients, but a lot of them were free clients that were giving me testimonials for helping them. And I really had to walk the walk and own it. And I went on stage after Guy Kawasaki, who was like a very seasoned public speaker with a lot of books and invested in Apple. So he was really established. What I learned in public speaking is I'm really good at it. And the reason is because I practice really hard. I take it really seriously. And I love the impact that I make, but I really don't like what it does to my body. Not just the 18 minutes on a TED stage or whatever stage of all the eyeballs looking at me and what my body goes through, my heart pumping and feeling like, it feels like you're not allowed to be a human during those 18 minutes. Like, what if I get a stomachache?
Yeah.
The
show must go on.
Yeah. What if I have to pee? I don't know. Something human is happening for me. So I feel like it's been really rewarding to reframe my talent and gift with helping people speak on stage themselves. Like, I know how to do it. I know how to do it well. So honoring my body and saying like, I don't know if I'm meant to be on speaking tours, because it's not just the time on stage. It's the flight. It's the travel. It's the whole experience. And even if I get paid super well, there's a lot of ways to get paid in this world. And if you don't believe that and you think there's one way or another way, just that's mindset work.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I want to ask you about just the physical toll of public speaking. So that's really interesting because I think a lot of people think of it more as the fear is psychological.
Yeah.
So you obviously are very good at it now, and you've found a way to manage the physical toll. What happens in your body that is scary for you, and what have you done to kind of, mitigate that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, there's so many different pieces of research that talk about how stress kills us. And sometimes I don't think people really register how real that is. Like, stress is killing us. I think stress is like an underlying state of like, I think it's like 80% of illnesses. I read some sort of...
Oh, I totally believe that. Yeah.
It's like, look what happens if you're stressed. It's like your pupils dilate, your heart starts pumping, it has to work harder to get blood through your body. You're hyperventilating. It's harder for oxygen to move through you.
You're basically in the fight or flight mode, sympathetic, parasympathetic, nervous system response. And that...
Right. And when we were like cave people, like when we're in a fight or flight, our body stops digesting because why digest when you're threatened by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever people talk about with that? So our bodies are really trained to stop some primary functions in order to survive in fight or flight and put all of your senses. Like if you've ever felt sick and then you go into fight or flight, you probably will notice looking back, you didn't feel sick for a minute. It's because your body literally cast aside all your misery for you to survive. So in order for your body to coordinate that, it's a lot of toll on your being. And that's why you can feel hungover from the surge of all the chemicals in your body. And, after I give a talk, I usually go to bed for a while. I go to sleep. I can't
That
really
was going to be my next question, was how do you recharge after something that is really, physically tolling and emotionally tolling? So you go to bed?
Yeah, I become a
I love that.
I know. It's not sustainable if I have kids and stuff like that later on, but, unless I have help. But I definitely turn into a blob for like at least a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you like need to totally
I
go
feel
in.
that I'll sleep, but I don't have any plans.
Yeah.
So speaking engagement for me, it's not the 40 minutes I'm on stage. It's like the hours of prep, which is fine. But, and I enjoy the storytelling. I'm a speechwriter and writer at heart. So I super enjoy that. And I worked in Obama administration. So I learned speaking through his methodologies.
In my humble opinion, like one of the best. So.
Yeah, he's an amazing speaker, whether you like him or not. So yeah, I think for me, it really taking care of myself. And I think a lot of people, they set their life schedules. Either they're not in a position to be able to actually say, what do I need? Because they're in a structure of work that they can't take care of their needs. Like it's just not a reality for them.
Yeah.
Fully. But I think the second piece is really being able to say to yourself, well, if I couldn't get in trouble, if I couldn't fail, if anything was possible, if anything was available, what would the schedule of my life look like? What would I be doing? Because when you really give yourself permission to start thinking that way and feeling into like what would really feel good, it is available for you to create your life.
Yeah. That brings me into your career coaching business. So, well, first of all, one thing that I always like to ask people is what they wanted to be as a kid.
I wanted to be a poet. And
a poet?
Yeah. I opened up my book.
That's so cute.
Oh my gosh. Shel Silverstein.
That's like, oh yeah, Shel Silverstein. I don't think I've ever heard anybody with that response. Oh my gosh, that's so deep for a kid.
Yeah, right? I know. I was such a feeler as a kid. And I don't think I even knew what to do with all my feelings. And, I went off the path, right? Like I went into counterterrorism and did all these things. And then I came back to myself and became an author. So it's like the truth of who you are is always going to win. It just doesn't matter how long until you want to hear it.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So doing a little research before this, obviously you worked at the Pentagon, and I think I read somewhere you were talking about like pushing through something and just kind of putting your head down and going even when it doesn't totally feel right. Can you tell me like about that in regards to before your coaching business? Like when somebody hears you were working at the Pentagon, that's like an end goal for a lot of people. And I have a little bit of a background, I did political science in school. So I was surrounded by kids that, were all looking for that job that you got.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I guess my question is, what is it about kind of putting your head down and pushing and then knowing when this isn't worth like this is too much pushing, like I can't, this is too heavy now.
Yeah. I'm so lucky and grateful that I really bit the bullet and moved to DC with like barely any money in my pocket. And I networked so hard. I ate free lunch, breakfast, dinner through going to networking events in DC. Every single day I would find them and just talk to people.
As an introvert. You need to write a book about being an introvert on this. Like I know Susan Cain has a really great one, but
she has an amazing book. I think my networking rule, if you're an introvert, instead of making it a numbers game, it's about being really pointed. So if you can know who's at the event before, great. But being really like, I give myself permission to leave after I've talked to like 3 kindred spirits that I vibe with. And
that's so good.
That can be in the first 5 minutes. It might take an hour. I'm not leaving until I do this. I also used to admit it. I used to go up to people and be like, I'm an introvert. This is a really hard place. And I'm saying hello to you. I'm Ashley. And it really helped. A lot of other people felt the same way. There's a quote, I don't like writing, I like having written. I feel that way about them, I don't like going to the gym, but I like having gone.
Right.
I went to everything and I really got the opportunity to get the job that, like you said, a lot of people might be working towards. And that was really cool because, I think a lot of celebrities, we see them have breakdowns in tabloids because they get their dreams after years of thinking that's the thing. And I think that can send you into full-on life spiral because it's like, oh my God, I just put 10 years into this thing and not even giving me what I wanted. So for me, I was able to put 4 years into like going to graduate school and learning languages. Everybody, a lot of people go to college. So it wasn't a total waste. And only like, I think 17 or 27% last I checked of people are working in a job that use their major. So it's not like I ruined my experience by picking a political major.
Right. Like unless you're on one of those like very structured paths, most of the time your college degree is just learning how to think basically.
Yeah. Showing yourself you can finish something. So I was able to get the gift of getting something earlier on and not having to have the full level of meltdown that I'm sure some people might feel if they put that many years in and realize the thing isn't the thing. And that probably creates a sense of lostness. There's a woman who writes about masculine and feminine energy. And for some people, her work is kind of offensive because it can come off as misogynistic and very like traditional and gender roles that we've been taught. For other people, it's incredibly helpful. It's Alison Armstrong, and she has a book called Keys to the Kingdom. And she writes about how men have different stages. And like there's the page, which wants adventure. And, you know, it's like little kids. And then there's the knight. And there's all these different layers of what it is to be a man in her work. And her intention is to help women kind of understand these stages and better navigate the men in their life. And the king stage doesn't happen until they go through what she calls the tunnel. And the tunnel is a phase, she argues, for men where, and I think women or whatever you identify as gender-wise, we all go through some sort of tunnel at some point.
Yeah.
She argues that it's the thing that happens before you become a king. And it's like, once you've done all the things you think you were supposed to do, you like built your career, you had the kids or whatever, you got the wife or, you know, the partner of your dreams, whatever. They go into the tunnel because all the things they thought were going to fulfill them, it's not 100%. And in the tunnel, they learn about what they really want and who they really are. And it usually starts like in your 40s as a man, and it can last up to 10 years. And,
oh my God.
And so I would say anyone can go through their own version of the tunnel. It's about coming out as a king or as a queen, really being able to say like, this is who I am. This is what matters to me. And as I continue my legacy in my life, you know, which I think some creators would argue legacy is an ego. Like, who cares what people think about you when you're gone? Why does it matter? And then other people, you know, think it matters and there's meaning in it. But it's this questions of legacy. So I think a lot of people end up in the tunnel at some point, so to speak, when they, you know, got everything they want. So I went into my tunnel and I just kind of decided I don't want this to be long because I have a life to live. And how can I feel the pain of this and get out of it? And, you know, Tony Robbins talks about dabblers, stressors, and masters. He talks about, you know, dabblers are the people that just dabble. And when they hit a plateau, they're like, well, I was never even I'm dabbling. So, you know, I'm not
Who cares? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the stressors, they make it through the plateau, but it's a stressful nightmare. And so they're experiencing stress. So who cares how cool it is that they made it to the other side? Their life the whole time there was a bummer.
I know a couple of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the master who looks at plateau and says, oh, wow, you know, a plateau, it's to be expected. This is life. How do I get through this? Who's been here before? Who can help me get through this? So I think when I've had moments in the tunnel, I just think to myself, all right, this is a plateau. How do I get out? And I've really invested in myself with therapists and coaches, and I've created friendship groups. Even right now, I just found 8 women who have similar businesses to me that I love, that are my friends. And I said, and they don't know each other, a lot of them. They know of each other, some don't. I said, hey, do you guys want to Zoom for 2 to 3 hours every other month and just like do hot seats with each other, whether it's business or personal? Like, we don't need to pay for a group. Like, let's just
figure out like powwow.
Yeah, let's get out of the tunnel, whatever tunnel we're in.
Yeah.
And it's been so cool to see how much value that initiative from me has been for so many of them. They're like, thanks for making a space for this. Thanks for scheduling a time for this. So I just want to point out, you know, it's not, you don't have to pay money for it either. You can find people and be intentional about it and take initiative.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something that, I don't know if it's just like, I think we're in a similar age range. It's become a lot more apparent to me. I just turned 36, just how important community is and like support. And whether that's like a therapist or a coach or just your friends. I mean, I don't know what I would do without my friends. They're like,
oh my God.
I mean, they like hold me up. Yeah. And just what you were talking about with the plateau and your experience going through that at a young age and being able to kind of understand that was what was happening when you came out of that. So how old were you when you left the Pentagon?
I was, I think, 24, and I moved back to Los Angeles. Part of the package was realizing that I wasn't in the right geographical place. I think people underestimate geography.
Oh my God. You're like a psychic. I talk about this to my friends all the time. Like I had this theory that wherever you're born is where your circadian rhythm wants to be. And I was born up in the Northeast and I live in Florida now. And it has been, I mean, I've been here almost 10 years and the heat still gets to me. Like I am just not cut out for heat.
No way.
Yeah, no, I have like people complain when they come to my house because they're like, it's an igloo in here. And I'm like, put a sweater on. Like,
Yeah.
I need the coolness. But
what would you be if you felt like you were the most like nurtured person? Like where does your body thrive the most?
I don't even know now because I do think just physiologically, I do think your blood does thin out after a while. So I don't know if I'd want to go back to Boston because that's pretty like close to Canada and that's really cold in the tundra.
Did you like it when you were there? Like, did you like the cold?
It was all I knew. So it wasn't, I grew up skiing and stuff. So it was like really part of my life was the seasons and all of that. And New England has amazing seasons and, autumn is gorgeous. But I love California. I love that it's like cool and warm, and I do love palm trees. I use palm trees in some of my branding. So, I mean, I do love that. And I love the ocean and stuff. So I don't know. I do feel like someday I'll end up in California. I just have always
spent my life there.
You grew up there, right?
Yeah, it's a really amazing place. A lot of people are moving right now, which I think is still a response to the pandemic. It was like an invitation for people to figure out who are they and where do they belong. And I don't mind the heat. I'm a tropical baby inside. So like the ocean, the heat, I'm here for it. I'll probably stay in Miami eventually. I'll get a house there and stay there. But anyone listening, I hope that they rethink their geography and they make it so important because it is like we are little flowers and we need water, and asking yourself what that looks like. I know that I need to be somewhere sunny with a beach and the winter can't get too wintry. And I know that I'm going to retire in France. It's like I've just been places that feel so nurturing for me.
Yes, I love that. I love that you have had that experience because I love when you go to a place that you've never been before and you're like, oh, it's home. This is home. Yeah. What about France is home for you?
I think the feminine energy, like I was just there before the pandemic and it
Me
was,
too.
Oh, no way. And do you notice that in the summer there, if you're in the summer, like the sun doesn't go down till like midnight and I actually love it. I love the lifestyle. I speak the language. I'm bilingual. So
that's super helpful.
Very helpful. They've never
super sexy.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't use it enough, but I just remember sitting over the bridge with I don't drink that much wine, but like wine, I'm not even supposed to have gluten, like baguette. Sitting over the Seine at midnight with the sun out, just being like, I'm going to sleep in and have a slow day tomorrow. And I'm a slow-mo girl. I'm not a morning person. I feel like I look like I'm from a petting zoo in the morning. Like,
oh, same.
I just like, I'm like the goat that no one wants to pet with like flies, Yeah,
I love it.
So I think I'll probably just be living my petting zoo life in France later. And I don't really work until 11 a.m. every day here. Just to honor whoever's working with me. Like I need to be on and right. But I think
that's so good. I love that.
Yeah. Creating structure like that. So anyone listening, I hope you create structure. I hope you get support. I hope you ask about your geography. If you're in the tunnel, I hope you get mentorship or create community to get out. Like I love all the I've never talked about a lot of these things, Courtney. Like you're really.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Wait, so I love France. I actually lived in Avignon for a little while in the south. Yeah. And then before the pandemic, my husband and I went because I had a friend living in Paris and I love France. Where in France would you retire? I just need to know.
I used to think Paris for a long time because I lived there on and off for 4 years and it was such a home for me.
Yeah.
But I think I would probably be at a house in the south. Yeah. Life is so different.
I mean, as a tropical baby, that's like, that's where you belong. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it has the California winds, like the dry winds. It has the Southern California, like rustic, like Santa Barbara trees and sky and ocean. But it has the European pace. And I think we are such a product of our environments. Like, yes, you can work on your mindset and it's really powerful. But if your environment sucks, it's going to get you too, no matter what your mindset is. Like I can't be in an environment. So I would say, like, what can you do now, even if you're in a geographical place you don't want to be, to change your environment? Do you need to clean up your desk? Do you need to rearrange your furniture? Like, do you need to paint your walls? Like, what do you need to do to feel more clear and spacious in your space? I love plants. Yeah. Soothing colors. I I think that self-soothing can happen through your environment. And when you're soothed and when you're grounded, you can be more creative.
Yes, absolutely. I think, creativity has to come from a place of relaxation. I don't think, if you're stressed, it's just that's like a flow blocker and you're just not going to get there. So how did you end up going from, how did coaching come to you?
Yeah.
Or did you seek it out, or was it something that really just kind of came to you?
I mean, I was really good at job hunting when I got into the Pentagon and all my friends were in the recession. Like, can you help me? And I just helped them out. It felt really good to help them get a job. Like, what better way to help someone than give them some stability and be a part of that? So helped people out, wrote their resume. A lot of people asked for help. People told me you should be a career coach. I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I'm 24 years old. Like, what is a career coach? I've only heard of like a sports coach. So I'm like, what do they stand outside of your office and like clap?
That would be an awesome job.
Yeah, right. Like, moral support. But I realized that was something I could do. I ended up hiring a coach, a life coach, to kind of help me hone in on like, what am I really gifted at? What would I start a business on? And she really gave me permission. Like, it really helped me be like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I was like 25. I had a job. I moved back to LA. I still was working in national security, but for a private company. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave this and I'm going to start this business. And I ended up getting that TED Talk because of the counterterrorism, stepping on stage and being like, I'm not talking about counterterrorism that much. I'm going to talk about my career coaching focus, And that ended up starting my business. I shamelessly walked around the TED arena after with flyers. So that in your career, you get different seasons, right? Like, there's seasons where you're hunting and you have to be masculine energy, which is pursuit, right? So I was pursuing, and there's a time and a place for it, like you're in hustle mode. And I'm not a big proponent of living a life that makes you have to hustle forever and always.
I mean, that's not sustainable. It's just
not sustainable, but people are doing it.
People do it. We're like in the height of hustle culture right now. And I can't wait for the pendulum to like swing. Because it's so not sustainable, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that being said, I'm in a place of feminine energy. And that's why I love what I'm doing. I think personal branding is the most powerful way to create a more feminine career path. And what I mean by that, like when I think of masculine and feminine energy, I think about like when you lose something, do you frenetically go looking for it? Or are you just like, it'll show up? That's masculine versus feminine, right? Like, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to trust, receptivity. I don't need to push and find it. I feel like in my career, when you create a personal brand, there's a lot of masculinity to it. It's like, I need to push, create, pitch myself as a blogger, pitch myself as a podcast guest, do the episode, find the guests. I need to go on the news, pitch myself to the producers, make my website do. But once it's all done, and it's not like it ever fully ends, once you really focus in on it, opportunities just start to come because you've told the world who you want to be. And the world gets to look at it and say, oh, she would be great for this. You never know who's looking at you. 10,000 people watch my TED Talk every day, and 10,000 people, or whatever, listen to my podcast every, 5 days or whatever the numbers are. So it's like, I am creating a brand where every day people are thinking about me, whether they have an agenda for me or not. And so what it does is it invites opportunities and it creates mysticism in my career. And that's why I love the way that I've been creating revenue in the business mostly now is through booking, clients who want me to write their TED Talk for them. And because a lot of people aren't storytellers, but they have a story to tell, and I write it with them. And then having my booker book them on the TED stage. And I think the fact that we've had a 97% success rate just comes down to like really writing their story in a way that moves the curators when we email them the speech. And what's cool about it is I know when we prep them, because we also help them prepare their delivery and practice their stage presence, that they're about to create feminine energy in their career. And I think everyone needs it just as much as all the other energies that we can step into. Because once they give that talk, it's out there. And if it's as good as we know it is, it's going to invite energy back towards them. And it takes you one step away from having to push every single day and make things happen, because things will happen for you.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that at the beginning, the whole put yourself out there thing is really just a stage. And at some point, you've put yourself out there enough that then you're out there and people see you and will receive you how they receive you, and the energy will come back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but here's a little devil's advocate for you.
Tell me.
So when you were saying, going out and pitching yourself and, job hunting in particular, like going out and pursuing, which is masculine, the lionesses are always the ones who go out and hunt, which is kind of an interesting little twist for, I don't know, for people to think about. I get that generally speaking, like how we perceive it is pretty masculine, like going out and like whatever, spreading the seed, if you will. But yeah, a lot of hunting is done by the females of packs and whatnot. So
that's true. And I think that in order to have that brand that does this for you, you got to hunt. It's not like you're just leaning back and hoping people find you. You're creating assets and creating a voice and being consistent and putting it out there. And once you've hit that tipping point, which I think the tipping point is a real thing. Put enough out there, there's a tipping point. So I think anyone out there that maybe they don't know what kind of business they want to start, if they want to be an entrepreneur, or they want to just build their career and have influence, like be creating a personal brand and set an intention around it. Like, this is what I'm up to for the next 2 years. It doesn't matter if I make money off of it. I'm just going to build it. And from there, that huntress energy, that lioness energy is going to translate into that tipping point where you can lean back a little bit.
And do you feel the tipping point? Did you like feel like this is the tipping point? Or was it like post tipping point that you're like, oh, that just happened?
There have been a lot of moments that I've gotten a big break, and they all came earned through these other cycles that I went through where I pushed. So like the first TED Talk that I got, that was a result of really that moment of saying, I'm going to move to DC. I have no money in my account. I'm going to network for 6 weeks. I'm going to go breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm going to go wild. And that's the thing. Everybody has a different definition of balance. So for me, balance is go crazy and then go chill. So 6 weeks of chaos and pushing, and then I got 4 job offers. So I think, and that's what I teach in my Job Offer Academy course. It's like, how do you just make it a numbers game?
Right.
I want you to be authentic. I don't want you to be like transactional, but I really did my best and pushed. And then I was able to lean back and receive offers and just be in my job and learn about myself. I think that was a big break for me because I got that job and that changed my life and that changed my story. And that opened me up to experiences, awards, thoughts. And when you do something new, you get new thoughts and you get a new life. Like new thoughts, new experience, new creativity, new ideas. I think that's really powerful. So for me, that was one big break. And then getting that TED Talk was the beginning of my personal brand. I think after that gave me the credibility that I really wanted to own who I was in my business as a career expert. I started getting clients. I started building my Yelp profile. That was like a huge priority for me to get Yelp reviews.
Oh, yeah.
And I focused on Yelp for like a year. Like anyone who had ever experienced me in their career, I was like, can you write me a Yelp review? And fun hack, you can't send people your Yelp link or Yelp knows and they kick their review off if it comes from your IP address. So they need to Google your Yelp, find it, and write you a review. So there's a whole process for a whole year of trying to get all the reviews.
Cool. Okay. I don't want to keep you too long because I know that you are busy, but I do just want to touch on, I always think it's interesting when people are a freelancer or an independent contractor or whatever you want to call it, because it does come with a lot of instability and like we already touched on hustle, but and like networking and salesperson-y. I guess, how do you balance the instability with peace?
Yeah, such a great question. I would say, number one, don't create instability. Like get a part-time job while you build your business. Have a full-time job and just build a brand. Like don't put yourself in that position if you're talking about financial instability. If you're talking about mental instability, I think a lot of people look too much at like the price for like one session with a therapist versus saying, I'm going to spend $5,000 in the next 2 years on my mental health. And that's going to look like conferences, therapists. I'm just going to set a budget, and $5,000 might be a lot for you. Maybe it's $1,000. Maybe you go to BetterHelp website, like wherever you want to go. Maybe you get your friends together and you ask a therapist, hey, for $200 an hour, will you have 5 of us on Zoom once a week? And you get therapy that way. I think there's so many ways to think creatively about your healing, but if you don't feel a sense of mental health stability, that's the first order of business. Like, how are you going to create anything if you're not mentally feeling good?
Yeah, I always just like to ask people that because I think that is one of the biggest holdbacks people have when they are thinking about whatever, job switching or going out on their own, it's like, that's very scary for people. So I think you're right on, the mental health has to be in check first, because if it's not, and then you take that leap, things will spiral. And what about like imposter syndrome? Is that something that you have experienced? And
Yeah.
if so, how do you kind of deal with that?
No, I came out of the womb just being like, I deserve it all. No,
Some people have.
Oh, bless their heart. I love that for them. That was not me. I definitely have a lot of confidence, not in every area, but I would say like confidence comes, first of all, it's domain specific. So it's not like everybody's just all around confident, right? Like I'm confident in, my career, but I'm not that confident with fitness. Like I just signed up with a trainer and it's like, I'm really ridiculous at the gym. So like across the board. So I would say as far as imposter syndrome goes, I'm just always very proactive of like, if I'm scared of this and I'm in the tunnel about it, who can I look to for guidance? I'm constantly trying to read and get information, not from a place of I'm broken, but from a place of like, how do I get stronger? How do I figure this out? I think that's a big distinction because a lot of people try to improve through a place of like, I'm broken, and you don't need to do that.
Cool. So what's next for you?
What is next for me? I'm really focused on the TED Talks and building that out. I have a couple speechwriters with me, and we are probably taking on 50 people this year for it, maybe more next year. But I just think it's really an honor to help people with their storytelling. I know the market changes, maybe booking people, pandemics happen, whatever, it won't be the same at some point. So I'm just really focused on how can I help as many people as possible get their message out there with this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is like, I call this part the afterglow, and it's just like a rapid response kind of thing. Don't think too hard. Just like, what advice would you give your younger self, and at what age would you give that advice?
The age that needed advice the most was probably like 28. And I would probably tell that part of me, like, this too shall pass. Like, everything is temporary.
Yep. Preach. What is the best career advice you've ever been given?
Dang, great question. I think about my own advice so much. Like, what is the best career advice I've been given? I would say, honestly, something about like observing an environment. Like, I think too many people are too quick to want to inject themselves into environments versus observe an environment before you inject yourself in.
Like in a workplace, like, do I fit in here?
A workplace, a friend group, you can chat, but I think people are too quick to want to give value that they don't even get to know the situation.
Okay. What is your favorite quote or one of them?
My favorite quote is probably from Rumi, like, live life as if everything is rigged in your favor.
Ooh, I like that one. They have really good ones. Okay, what is the single best daily practice that you have in your life right now, and why?
I don't have a daily practice. I mean, the only thing I do every day is make coffee. Some days I journal, some days I don't. I just follow my mood. I love routines, but honestly, I think just my commitment to slow mornings is like the best thing in general that I do for myself, because it's the most like self-honoring, self-accepting thing that I do.
Nice. Yeah, slow mornings are so, oh my gosh.
For me,
I remember.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I love slow mornings. I'm also not a morning person. So when you were saying like, I don't really do any calls or anything before 11, I felt that because I was always like, what is an 8:30 call? Like, who do you think you are?
Yeah. Why are we up here at this time?
Yeah, there's no reason. Okay, so this is just, some people don't have an answer to this, but what is your go-to pump-up song for like if you have, let's say, your TED Talk or a big, I don't know, guest on your podcast or just to work out? Like, what is your like go-to, like, I need to energize myself now, press play?
You're going to laugh, but I really love rap music. So probably like Pop That by French Montana or something really.
I love that. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. I also like asking people this because I'm always just like, I need new music. Like, what can I like? So now I'm going to like go find that.
I don't know if this is your vibe. You feel a little more like flowy than French Montana's Pop
I'm
That.
actually like embarrassingly so into very poppy pop music.
There you go.
Bubblegum pop.
Love that.
Like, very embarrassing, but no, I love that. Ashley, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
My pleasure.
Like still have so many things I want to ask you about, but you're just going to have to come back. So yes. So everybody go check out Ashley's podcast as well. It's called U-Turn. She also has her book called U-Turn, and you could just Google her. She comes up and you'll see her beautiful face. And she's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Glow State. Please take a moment to subscribe to the show, and then be sure to share it with a friend you know who would love a little glow in their life. I'll see you next time. Now, go glow.